How is it going, guys? Malagant here. We are going to be checking out the latest patch of Grim Dawn. Let me make my camera just a tiny bit smaller so that I'm not going to be putting my camera on top of the writings. Thank you for joining me. Right before jumping into it, can be a little bit of sad news, but this is most likely going to be the last update of Grim Dawn, the base game at the very least. You know, mods are probably going to be continuing updating the their own content, but you know, the base game content, it's not going to be receiving, it looks like it's not going to be receiving any more DLCs, no expansions or no big patches either. So this is where it's going to be stopping. And Kratos in fact going to be focusing on their new game, which is Farthest Frontier right over here. Is available for, you know, available to you for some information. It looks like a little bit of like Banished on Steam, if you're familiar with that game. That's what I kinda grabbed from like the screenshots and stuff, so the link is going to be down below if you would like to check it out and support Crate. Definitely put it on a follow from the Steam as well. So that said, let's dive into the latest patch 119. You know, I'm not going to be reading literally everything on the list because there are a lot of small item changes where it would be, you know, completely irrelevant for me to like talk about everything. It's unnecessary at the same time, but I'll try to like tell you what they have been trying to do. It looks like, from my understanding at least, and there's a couple of stuff that I'm more interested in, and I'll be giving you my opinions when it comes to their approach on this one as well. I think that's going to be a little bit more, you know, useful for this video, let's say, or it's going to be at the very least more interesting. So from the major new features, let's read it all. The Shattered Realms Fractured Reality reveals new secrets. 20 new areas have been introduced into the shard pool, including 4 new Shattered Guardian domains, so like 4 new maps for the boss fights, and 20 new areas for 20 new maps for the Shattered Realm alone. This is obviously incredible. The Shattered Guardian set has received a visual update to make its splendor even more impressive. So, you know, the Shattered Realm set is looking different now, and the old appearance is still available inside the Shattered Realm vendor. 3 new legendary sets have been added to the Forgotten Gods loot pool, 12 items in total, so they have 4 pieces each. These sets are available exclusively in Shattered Realm on Ultimate difficulty. Now, I don't necessarily know how they are actually achieved or acquired. I don't know if they're dropping from the, you know, the chest, or if they're, you know, tied to the difficulty like the Shattered Realm set is, and you can just like purchase it at the end or something. I don't really know. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a new video about these sets that are coming up. I do know that like in one of the latest, couple of months ago, I believe, in one of the latest Grim Misadventures, there, you know, blog posts about like the update, about like what they're working on stuff. They sort of like showcase these sets, these 12 pieces. But I do believe that like they probably ended up changing them a little bit more, so I'm going to be waiting for Grim Tools to update their website, damn it, to update Grim Tools. And I'm going to be making a new video on talking about like these sets over there. I think it's going to be a little bit better. It's just like looking at the latest version of those sets, and basically perhaps like I'll be coming up with like some ideas when it comes to like how we can use these sets with which class combination. Perhaps it would be definitely better than just trying to guess stuff or like looking at the old stuff that is available right now. That said, however, one thing that I can tell you that I really dislike about this is the fact that like these sets being, you know, exclusive to just Shattered Realm, like the Shattered Realm set. So, you know, now the Shattered Realm set is not necessarily unique. There's like, you know, 3 others, let's say. That's one thing, and the other thing that I can mention is that like okay, like I'm a little bit in between when it comes to this. Like I think I'm being a little bit biased simply because, like, you know me, I don't necessarily really like Shattered Realm all that much. Most of the time my gripe is coming from the fact that like I do believe that it's not that optimized when it comes to especially performance of the game. The game doesn't really give you that good performance when it comes to like frame rate, you know, stutters, whatnot, when there's too much going on, you know what I mean? Versus the boss fights and the boss room, it's kind of okay actually, but you know, the rest of the things. Sometimes it just goes all the way down to like 25 FPS, 30 FPS from me, and I really dislike that when I'm playing games. So just because of this reason, I have always been kind of away from Shattered Realm, but you know, keeping that bias in mind, I dislike the fact that, you know, the new sets are only available in Shattered Realm. But on the other hand, I do like the fact that, you know, we have maybe perhaps more sets that are targetable. So there will be like more options for new players to come to Grim Dawn and say that, okay, these sets are like targetable, let's, you know, focus on one of them. It used to be, you know, Dark One and Krieg set. Perhaps it's going to be much more now, you know, but that's also in mind if it's as difficult as the Shattered Guardian sets, you know, it's not that targetable either. You know, you really do need to complete like 65 or something to be able to get to that, and a character that is like newly 100 trying to target farm that is not that easy. I have been there. It's definitely doable though. So that were basically like the major features that were added. Let's look into monster offensive ability and damage scaling at shard 70+. To be honest with you, from here the entire thing is going to be kind of focusing the high end of Shattered Realm. What I kind of understood from what they're trying to do here is that like they wanted to make it much more difficult at the high end of Shattered Realm, perhaps like make it almost, you know, maybe impossible at one point. These timer changes from the Carnage bonus is basically, I think, irrelevant for the players that are like, you know, playing around like level 50 to 60-ish of Shattered Realm, obviously, so SR 60-ish. Because for the most part, when you have a good character, how it was feeling is that like, you had enough time basically to keep up with this bonus. And then I am guessing at the very end, you know, at high up there, it is going to be coming up to a point where like you will have a hard time keeping up with the bonus. Now it's going to be even harder, or like you will have this harder time earlier on. So that is one thing that I have changed over here. Another thing that is very interesting is that like we can read this one actually. Boss aggro behavior has been changed and the spawn position have been updated in higher shards. Bosses now do not engage until you get closer. It is now possible to avoid pulling all the bosses in the Shattered Guardian's domain without resorting to camera exploits. So, personal input here, I don't necessarily understand why it was an exploit to begin with. You know me with my camera rotation, I love that shit. I suppose they're calling it an exploit because it was possible for you to, I think, rotate the camera into maybe a singular pull. You know, I suppose this is the exploit that's been that they're talking about here. Now, that said though, you were kind of rotating the camera to get some information now that's been fixed from the earlier line over here that you read. Bosses now do not engage until you get closer. This is really good, so you don't necessarily need to gain an advantage by rotating the camera to get the information either, because I think I was more on the information side most of the time when I was rotating my camera to see what I'm up against, you know what I mean? Because like when you're in range without rotating the camera, you obviously have like a shorter distance, and then afterwards you will be pulling the boss. You're like, okay, we're fighting Alexander and there's the meteor. You know what I mean? So now it will be possible for you to comfortably get close to the bosses, and you're like, okay, we have these in our hands, perhaps I'm going to be fighting this guy first, because they're explicitly saying that like you can actually pull one of the bosses without pulling the others. I really like this. So this completely like closes this. Apparently this was like a discussion or something, the exploit issue, and at the same time while maintaining the information side you know, intact. I really like this change. It's a good approach for sure. Those are kind of like irrelevant, except the fact that like I think there's some let me see where it is, guys. There it is. Fixed an issue with several missing music tracks in Forgotten Gods content. This is really hilarious actually. Like Forgotten Gods came out like 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago or something. And there were 4 new old music tracks that were there all along. This is very interesting. So we have now new 4 soundtracks available in the game in Forgotten Gods content. They were just missing or something. I'm not really sure why. Another very interesting thing over here is the fact that percentage health and all damage scaling for all the pets have been increased, guys. And then it is very important to continue reading this. This has been largely compensated by reduction of comparable bonuses in pet-themed sets. So this literally says that like we have nerfed the pet bonuses from the sets, but instead we are buffing the all damage and health scaling from every single pet in the game within the skill ranks. This is an incredible change for people that are leveling with pets. It's an incredible change for a player that is playing pets with his or their first character, and they come to like level 94 or something and they don't have these legendaries. It is because thanks to this change they will be capable of basically keeping up with the content while having like higher health pool mobs or higher health pool pets, and better scaling, all damage scaling pets as well. It's insane. But at the same time, obviously, as far as I understood, I'm not gonna go too deep into this by saying that like they are heavily nerfed or something. I do also have a pet build. It's the conjurer that is the bird summoner conjurer. You can check it out from a link down below in the description if you would like to. I'm going to be checking this out a little bit more when it comes to like when Grim Internals is updated, when Grim Tools is updated, so that like I can understand what's going on a little bit more. But if I have to guess, it's still going to be like a very strong character, because no matter like what Crate always nerfed, they didn't necessarily change how the character works all that much. They just like tuned it down a little bit for the most part. So I'm guessing that's going to be the case for most of the pet themed sets out there. So it's probably going to be a good nerf though, if I have to guess, especially considering that like your pets are going to be stronger earlier on without the set itself. So what this also does is that like it kind of closes the gap between like a character that is without the legendary set and playing about the same build, while a build that is complete with its legendary. Before it was probably something like this. Now it's going to be a little bit closer because this guy is a little bit weaker while this guy is a little bit stronger, if that makes sense. It's a good thing all around for especially like a character that is progressing. That's going to be my input. I like this for the most part, but obviously some people are probably going to be upset for the fact that like their pet builds are going to be getting nerfed, or their favorite set is going to be getting nerfed for sure. So from now on, let's try to look at the components, for instance. I'm not going to be checking the faction items all that much, but there's some interesting stuff in the components over here. The Eldritch Mirror, this is in fact a chest component, if I'm not mistaken. Let's like make a mistake here. Oh, it's a little bit laggy for some reason. I think it's in fact one of the rare ones. So it could be somewhere there. Yeah, there we go. So Eldritch Mirror is going to be having increased all speed for the pets, increased to 10%. I think it's from 8% or something. Yeah, right over there. I like how they're writing all speed. So this is the first time that I'm ever seeing an all speed stat. You know how Grimdawn has like life steal, life leech, and then also attack damage converted to health? Now it has total speed and all speed. I like it. So Leathery Hide increased armor to 32 and health percentage to 6%. Leathery Hide is a component for the Helm guys. It's already a good component, especially while leveling, because of the stun resistance that it gives. But recently they have made it so that like this guy. Recently they have made it so that like there are more possibilities for you to gain these stun resistances, because they have buffed how the MIs are rolling, especially on the earlier on in the game, or over the years. Earlier on in the game, it is much easier for you to find, rarer affixes, rare rolls on your MIs. So this already gives you kind of little bit of more chance of getting stun resistance. More devotions. Before it was only the Empty Throne, in fact, in the devotions. Now there are lots more when it comes to like this and that, and many more in the itemization, capable of giving stun resistance in the game as well. So thanks to all of this, people actually stopped using leathery hide, including myself, and we started using runestone. As you probably have seen my suggestions when it comes to the the components for beginners guide, I didn't even mention the leathery hide, to be honest with you. Now they're trying to like buff it up a little bit, but to be honest with you, this change probably doesn't really mean all that much. The funny part about this is that like while they're changing this, they're also nerfing the runestone by replacing the elemental damage by 8% damage to ethereals. This doesn't necessarily, you know, nerf it all that much, except unless you're like an elemental damage dealing character. This 8% damage to ethereal is kind of interesting actually, because it's going to be multiplicative with the other percentages. So it's not like you have 100% all damage, and versus ethereals it will be like 108. No, it's going to be like 100% all damage. It will scale your, you know, skills and whatnot, and then you have a number. And versus ethereals, that number will be 8% bigger. So it's like multiplicative basically. That's it. That's a cool thing. That's like all around, you know, making runestone a little bit better for everybody, except perhaps elemental characters out there. The Titan plating percentage armor increased to 12%, and the reflect resist is now 33%. That is absolutely nuts, you guys. That is insane. I think it is very difficult for Titan plating to keep up with these you know, other Goliaths when it comes to you know, the chest and the head armor, because most of the characters out there, unfortunately guys, they're trying to gain the armor absorption from this place, and that is also you know, making it very difficult for you to end up using Titan plating. So I wouldn't necessarily go ahead and say that like Titan plating was, you know, bad. Maybe it didn't even need this buff. Perhaps it needed a little bit of help when it comes to armor absorption. That's all I'm gonna say. But you know, buffing Titan plating, already strong thing, now it's 33% reflect damage reduction. It's absolutely insane. Definitely. Let's see if there's anything else that we can mention. The Prismatic Diamond. Literally, I have if I have like 7 characters or something ever since I'm back to Grim Dawn, right? Every single one of them was running Prismatic Diamond on the head, because this thing is a beast, you guys, for late game. It is an incredibly reliable proc. And the way that I play my character, it was always some sort of like a line of defense at the back to like save my character. So let's see what they did to the Prismatic Diamond. It's right over here. The reason that you use this is because like its health. I don't really care about the elemental damage. Its health, it's a little bit of energy absorption. Vitality resistance is pretty good, but the proc itself says it activates when health drops below 50%, so 50% is quite high, you know. Most of the time before dying you will in fact go down to 50%, you know, 90% of the time, unless it's unless if you watched like the way that I died on my battle mage recently while leveling. That was hilarious, but it's on my channel if you're curious about it. So at 50% it procs, it gives you damage absorption, it gives you total speed, and it also modifies your damage a little bit. It's an incredible proc, very reliable, and it could in fact, like, just because of how the damage absorption is working in this game, just because of that reason, it can actually in fact save you from death quite nicely, for sure. Now they removed the elemental damage and increased the cooldown on the granted skill. So it is not giving elemental damage at all anymore. It's just some sort of like a defensive component for the helm, even for an elemental character. And the cooldown of this guy is going to be higher than 25 seconds. That's okay, in my opinion. I'm guessing the cooldown is not going to be drastic. We will be able to see this on Groom Tools in the upcoming week. Hopefully it's going to be updated soon. But yeah, I'm going to be skipping the rest of the stuff over here. And what is Seal of Blight? Perhaps we should check that out as well. Added a 6% attack damage converted to health to the granted skill. So Seal of Blight is going to be a component for the weapon. Right over there, it is the one that is physical damage converted to vitality with Acid Purge. This is the one that I was actually using on my peasant while I was leveling. This is a channeled ability, some sort of like a puke, I want to say, right in front of you. Now it's also capable of like life stealing. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Monster infrequents, we are not going to be checking them out. The epic items, same again, and for the legendary non-set, maybe even including the set items, we won't be checking them out. But I'll be globally speaking about some stuff here. It is very interesting. I think Retaliation. Perhaps let's not use this one. Alright, there we go. Like, Retaliation has been absolutely destroyed. That is one thing that I can tell you. In some cases, you know, if I had such character, in some cases I can go ahead and say that like it's been demolished because some of the items are not even giving retaliation anymore. So if you had a build, let's say, you know, Retaliation Warlord or something, maybe two of the items that you selected because they were buffing Retaliation, they have nothing to do with Retaliation anymore. That was how, you know, how big these changes are. And if you're interested in Retaliation changes, all you need to do is basically Control F, write Retal, and then you will be, you know, skimming through and checking the highlighted nodes. Most of the time it's going to be looking something like remove the percentage all retaliation damage, you know, reduce the retaliation damage bonuses, reduce the retaliation damage bonuses. The same thing is going to be like replace the retaliation with just health, so it doesn't even exist anymore. Just remove Valscorn braces, remove the retaliation. You know, there are lots of nodes like this. It is very interesting to see this. I am somebody, if you're familiar with my content, especially for Grimdom, I'm not somebody that is like keeping up with what people are capable of doing in this game, because it's some sort of like my own journey in this game. I don't really mind if somebody is playing some sort of like a godlike character. It's really not bothering me, or, you know, interests me, let's say, simply because, you know, it's kind of like a single player game for me. That's, you know, in my own, I don't trade. I kind of play it self-found. It's kind of like a journey for me. So in that case, for me, it doesn't really matter at all. But as I said, if I was, you know, a big retail player, perhaps it would have definitely bothered me in that sense, for sure. So that said, I don't really understand this change all that much, because, you know, if somebody else was like godlike with a retaliation character, I suppose they're more in line now. But I would have preferred them being more in line while also keeping the same character that I have already made, instead of now having to think about, is this character gonna work at all, because some items are not giving retaliation at all now. It's so weird, you know what I mean? So that's kind of a big change. That is what I'm thinking about this overall. Apart from retaliation, as we have kind of hinted before, the pet stuff is kind of different as well. So most of the pet, you know, sets out there are going to be kind of low as well. Let's see if we can find some stuff actually. For the most part, what I'm seeing over here is very interesting, like stuff like Mythical Witching Hour, added cooldown reduction, 8% physical resistance, and +2 to Infernal Breath. Increased percentage health for pets to 24%. So this is like a buff. And the stuff that I have, you know, while I was not speaking and searching, the stuff that I have paid attention to is mostly non-set items. And for the most part, what I can see is that like they have received buffs. This is very, very interesting. Now we're going to be going into set items, and I'm assuming there are going to be some removals here. Beast Collar's Regalia set added 6 physical damage bonus for the pets, removed the percentage HP, percentage offensive ability, and crit damage bonuses for the pets. That is absolutely nuts, the amount of like nerf that is. What? Bismeal Trinket set removed percentage health, all damage, and crit damage. So you know how we talked about the fact that like a new pet player is reaching level 94 much stronger than before. Now also it seems like these uniques, these legendaries that are the way that I said unique is not because of like kind of a Path of Exile way. It's because of the way that I kind of meant non-set legendaries. So that's what I was trying to aim, and non-set legendary seems to be a little bit more supportive. I was actually going to mention the same thing when it comes to like these epic changes as well, and the monster infrequents as well. They seem to be tiny little bit stronger all around if you go through the changes, except, you know, the regular retaliation nerf all around the place. But the same thing can be said for like the pets as well. So it seems like they have tried to like buff these things when it comes to like the blues and the legendaries, if they're like non-set, but the sets are going to the ground. It looks like it's so interesting change to me. I would honestly need to go through and like play something like my Bird Conjurer to be able to understand what is going on now, and perhaps like maybe even take some sort of like a screenshot in like Grim Tools and my stats in the game as well, and then compare it to like the new character that is going to be coming out with like offensive ability on the pets, crit damage on the pets. You get what I'm saying. Perhaps even like, you know, don't update the game, check out the Grim Internals DPS. I do kind of know what sort of DPS that my character can pull, but I'll be comparing these in the next couple of days when I get to like play a little bit more. Definitely. I'll probably be waiting for like the Grim Internals update, the mod, before I start playing, because I'm really used to it and I really enjoy the interface utility, or, you know, the interface options that it brings, let's say. I really enjoy playing with it, so there's no rush. Anyways, I'll be continuing making YouTube content in the meantime. Apart from these two things that I mentioned when it comes to the itemization, so retaliation and the pet stuff, another thing that I'll mention to you is that there are these like small changes to especially non-set, you know, blue and legendary items. Let's see. Look. Alright, so let's search for like pluses, okay? So for instance, the Gulgazer Heart, this is an MI. If I'm not mistaken, this is an MI for like a, you know, acid poison sort of thing. It's like a necklace, I want to say. We can actually like build this up in the meantime. Perhaps I can even like find it real quickly over here instead of building it up. Yeah, Gulgazer, there it is. So this guy right over here is going to be receiving pluses to Inquisitor. Instead of Horn of Gandar, it's receiving pluses to Inquisitor. This type of thing is incredibly good, you guys. You know why? Because when you look at this, the first thing that you think about, okay, it's like acid poison and it's Inquisitor, like what am I supposed to do? This is an MI. At the end of the day, it's going to be shaping incredibly, good, according to like how you're going to be dropping this item, right? So it could end up being elemental, it could end up being physical. Perhaps it will be even supporting poison and acid even further and adding up on top of this. So it is entirely possible, but it's not all about the end game. You know, when a level 40 character is passing by Gulgazer, they will be able to receive, bam, on the spot, +1 to Inquisitor. This definitely makes the game a little bit more fun. And there are a couple of changes like this that I really like, to be honest with you. This is definitely out of the box, and I really like that. So for instance, the Azrakan Sands over here receiving pluses in the legendary non-set items to Oathkeeper instead of the Resilience. Let's go find this item as well. I think this is in fact a necklace as well. We're gonna finally need to like load this up. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'll open like an item database as well and load this one up also. So instead of the resilience over here, it's getting pluses to Oathkeeper. Granted, I don't really see myself ending up and using this item like almost ever, guys, simply because it's way too defensive. It doesn't necessarily offer so much when it comes to anything else. It's much more in line, if you think about it, with like those class specific necklaces that are available to you. But you know, at the very least, they're offering something extremely unique when it comes to modifying abilities, right? This one is just Horn of Gandar. didn't really play with Horn of Gandar so much either, but unless I'm mistaken, Horn of Gandar is being buffed all around the place for the most part. So perhaps now it is going to be finally something to check out with such a necklace, and then also at the same time you're buffing a lot of Oathkeeper side as well, so you'll be going like, you know, Inquisitor Oathkeeper side type of thing. Who knows? Let's continue checking to the pluses over here. So Dawnshard Gaze and Gaze of Empyrean, the two interesting gazes being buffed over here. I would like to show you both of these items before finalizing talking about itemization over here actually. Dawnshard. So Dawnshard Gaze is something that is buffing Rune of Calastor from Inquisitor. It was already giving pluses to Soldier, now it's also giving pluses to Inquisitor, so some sort of like an elemental tactician. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a retaliation build, it's going pluses to both of the masteries. That is ridiculously big. It's a massive buff to the single item over here. Now it's also craftable, so it's going to be that much of a more valuable item for somebody that is, you know, not necessarily yet there when it comes to like legendary sets, but they will be able to use this as like a tactician and it will be that much bigger, or perhaps just an Inquisitor or any type of like an elemental Inquisitor will be able to do this too. And they still will be getting, you know, a lot more value instead of just reprisal. Oh, it's actually, my bad, it's actually the ignition that has been replaced instead of the reprisal. That's my bad, sorry. The next thing is, you know, this kind of means a lot to me, the Gaze of Empyrean. I don't know if I'm going to be making a new character. There it is, the Gaze of Empyrean. I have played this before, guys, on, in fact, on a purifier, I want to say, and it used to give, it basically used to give Vindictive Flame and Aura of Censure without like any pluses towards the masteries. Okay, now in fact it's gonna end up giving pluses to the Inquisitor as well. So this item is very big now for something like a purifier that I used to play, and I'm going to be, you know, I'm gonna do you a favor and I'll like share this character down below. This character might actually not be the strongest thing out there, but it was one of the most fun. Extreme aura damage, sort of like Righteous Fire from Path of Exile, if you're familiar with it. This is going to be the one that I'm gonna share, and that is in fact rocking the Gaze of Empyrean, which is going to be getting pluses to Inquisitor now, unless I'm mistaken, right? Yeah, Aura of Censure is being replaced by pluses to Inquisitor. So it used to be +2 to Aura of Censure, now it's, you know, lower that by 1. Now it's going to be -1. What I'm curious about is that, like, sure, we're gonna need to like find a +1 to Aura of Censure if you want to have like the maximum. But everything else is going to be +1 as well. You know, this will be, this will be, this will be, that. You get the point, and perhaps you will be able to run the Horn of Gandar after the buffs as well. Who knows? But check this character out. Definitely, if you're into some sort of like an aura guy that is killing everything around it with like procs and still be okay with a single target as well, because of like how strong the Malacors are. You know, I'm gonna share this down below, and you'll be able to see it with this new Gaze of Empyrean type of thing, which is also craftable. It's insane. All right, so let's scroll down to finalize things. Let's talk about basically a little bit of devotion and skill changes that are coming with these things as well. This is very hilarious because like most of the things over here are the stuff that I don't really use. Except a couple of stuff. This also means that like I have been, you know, on the upper upper side of things when it comes to like selection of constellations, because most of these constellations I'm like, what was this guy doing again? You know, I never take it. Now maybe consider taking it. So overall, guys, health and healing increase buff. This is very interesting, the healing increase. So what is healing in this game? If you think about it, the healing is not necessarily, as far as I know, it is not health regen. The healing is like something like your health potion, or like, excuse me, pneumatic burst, word of renewal. Some of like these devotion procs are healing as well, such as like Tree of Life, but some of them are also capable of giving on the side some life regeneration. So the healing percentages are, you know, buffed all around the place, it looks like, right over there as well, right over here, right over here. It's very interesting to see, to be honest with you. This obviously makes the game a little bit easier. The Phoenix is in fact increased the health to 225. Let's see the impact, what sort of like a impact that is on the Phoenix. 225. How much was it before? It was 150, so it's like 75 more HP. Quite sizable buff, definitely. The Scorpion, guys, increased the acid percentage damage to 39%. And right over here, the Scorpion Sting increased the base weapon percentage damage by 5% and increases the poison damage scaling with rank. Okay, I would like you to keep this in mind, because this is the first buff that we have on my Dervish, one of the best characters that I have made recently, 100%, and the Scorpion is buffed. So from this, let's also talk about yet another buff to this character, which is called the Dune Fiend. The Corvan Dune Fiend set increased the percentage physical resist bonus to 12%. Let's look at what it used to be. Guys, it was 10% before, so like 2% extra physical resistance, you know, I'll take it. Better than nothing. Increases the acid damage modifier for Eye of Reckoning to 66. Let's look at this as well, what it was. It used to be 50, so this is like a sizable buff in fact. The 66, 16 more. About like, what is it, like 20%, 27% or something like that buff to how much damage that the Eye of Reckoning is gaining. This is pretty big as well. The attack damage converted to health, so the lifesteal modifier is 6% now instead of 5%. At the very down bottom it says like 5% attack damage converted to health to Eye of Reckoning, now that is 6%. So the character that I have and the character that I recently made the YouTube guide for, this guy, the Dervish build guy, this guy is in fact buffed very nicely, you guys. So if you're interested in playing some sort of like an acid poison Dervish, it's even stronger now. That's a good thing, definitely. It makes me happy. The last patch of Grim Dawn didn't touch my best character, recent best character. It definitely makes me happy. All around, guys, another really interesting thing is that like I kind of wanted to check the pet stuff over here. That I want to see if there's anything to like increased damage dealt by the summoned pet for the Bismael's command. Okay, let's check like a little bit more pet stuff over here. There are no pet stuff here, is there? Like the Mogdragon's Wolf added 6% attack damage converted to health. So I suppose your pets are kind of like life stealing now. Because I don't really see the Mogdragon Wolf to be giving a passive life steal for a character, not necessarily going to be, you know, attacking himself at all, right? So I'm guessing this is giving the attack, you know, attack to life to the pets. Alright, so this is going to be it, probably, over there as well. Let's look at the class changes a little bit. Last thing that I can probably talk about is like Turtle Shell. This is like back-to-back so many buffs to Turtle Shell, and nobody's still using it, I feel like. At least I'm not using it. Increase the absorption scaling with the rank and increase percentage health threshold to 50. Now, this is a massive buff though. The last thing that I just said is a massive buff. From 40% to 50%, so it's at the very least in line with something like Prismatic Diamond. You know, the buff itself is so much more reliable, because if you think about it, it's entirely possible for a character to just instantly die at like 42%. It's at least tiny little bit harder for the character to die instantly at 52%. So there's a higher chance for Turtle Shell to proc and save you, especially while leveling too. So the proc itself, and let's be real here, if you're going for the tortoise, you're most likely going for the proc itself, is definitely much more valuable. So this alone is the right approach, really like it. The cooldown is reduced to 36% and adjusted the cooldown scaling by the rank 12 as well. That's kind of cool, very cool. I think I like that change too. And you know, I would definitely recommend you to go ahead and like check out the changes, especially nowadays before Damage has a chance to like update his website, the Grim Tools, so that like you will be able to kind of one-to-one compare what is, you know, what is some sort of like a big change, what is a small change, and like how they're looking on the devotions compared to the old versions, let's say. Counter-Strike has been nerfed when it comes to Soldier, reduced the retaliation added to the attack scaling with rank to 10%. By 16 in fact, and then 14% by the ultimate. Let's do like this. Let's go to Soldier, because I'm kind of interested in this to see like how big of a deal this is. It's at the ultimate rank. It was saying that it was 14%, right? Wait a second. What? Percentage retaliation added to attack scaling with 10%. And 14 by the ultimate. Okay, all right. Now I understand. I was thinking it's reduced by, but no, not really. It is now this number basically. So instead of 18%, guys, at 26, it's going to be 14% now. So only 4% difference. When it comes to like an absolute maxed out ultimate rank Counter-Strike, let's say. Demolitionist, the attack rate is being lowered of the mortar trap. That's very interesting nerf. This is sort of like a big deal, definitely. The big one, if you go ahead and like check out the items that are supporting the big one as well, seems to be all around a little bit buffed. This is one of the abilities that I have never played with, including the mortar trap, but at the very least mortar trap I do know how it works, and I kind of like checked it out at least once or twice. I just didn't play it all that much. Occultist on the Dreeg's Evil Eye, increase the acid damage scaling with rank. This is a good deal, definitely. You know, it never crossed my mind to play something like Dreeg's Evil Eye Caster. Bloodburst, increased acid and poison damage scaling with the rank as well. Let's see what Bloodburst is. When it comes to like the modifier names, I'm not necessarily that good with them. So Occultist, perhaps it's one of the modifiers of the Dreegs. Yeah, it is right there. So this is like the secondary line of buff. Increase the acid and poison damage scaling with rank as well on the Bloodburst. Terrifying Gaze, increased percentage acid and poison damage scaling with rank to 144 at 12. Also at the ultimate rank as well. The Terrifying Gaze. This guy is buffed as well. What is going on here? Vile Eruption, increase the base number of fragments by 1. I'm guessing this is like the last one. So, base number of fragments. A normal character is capable of reaching 6 fragments. Now it's going to be 7 fragments, and the base means that even at 1 it's going to be 4. Pretty big deal, definitely pretty big deal. This is like a massive buff in fact to Dreeg's Evil Eye. This is very interesting. At the very least, guys, what I can tell you is it's going to be an absolute beast when it comes to leveling Occultist with the Dreeg's Evil Eye, just because of like how much buffed it is by itself. It's going to be so much more potent, I'm guessing. The only downside to this when you're leveling with something like this looking is the fact that like it has 4 nodes that you need to max out. That is like the downside to it, definitely. The Ember Claw, number of targets now scale with rank up to 11 by maximum. Increase the base pet attack to 115. Yeah, so they're buffing the doggy Hellhound. But they have already mentioned up top that like they're going to be increasing the percentages when it comes to the base pets. And then we go to the familiar, reduce the percentage pet attack damage to 11% instead of 14. Oof. My pet conjurer, guys. What happened to my pet conjurer? Lightning strike increased radius to 3.5 and increased pet attack damage scaling 100 by rank 12 and 125 by the maximum. So they sort of like increase the lightning strikes, this guy's damage, but while nerfing the storm orbs, you know, weapon scaling, like how strong the pet is actually. This is the biggest loser, guys. This is ultimately the biggest loser. I want to show you something from the Arcanist. In fact, I was, you know, the recent battle mage that I was about to level and died with was in fact going to be an Aether Ray physical battle mage. Was going to be an interesting character, definitely. I was looking forward to trying that out, and then Zarya one-shot me. But now that I see these patch notes, I'm actually perhaps like, you know, a little bit happy that it happened. Now I would like you to check this out. It says 70% crit damage, okay? At 22. Disintegration. Look at the disintegration over here, guys. 45%. What kind of a nerf is this? It's like half, you know? What just happened? From 70% crit damage to 45% crit damage. That's absolutely nuts, the amount of crit damage nerf there. You know, this is a very drastic change. Granted, some of these, look, I would like you to understand that I'm not necessarily informed when it comes to these characters that are playing this, you know, with maxed out disintegration, and they're capable of reaching like very high, like extremely high crit damage numbers on their spreadsheet or like, you know, character sheet, let's say. And the numbers are like somewhat about like 190% or something. I'm not even kidding. That's what it is, you know. Globally they're receiving crit damage from here and there and here and there, and then at the end the skill itself is, you know, it used to bring 70% more, so it was becoming like 180% as well, and now, you know, they are going to be drastically nerfed. But this approach I again very much dislike, because these players, you know, the targeted nerf here are the players that are at the very, very top end of the thing, you know. Grimdawn is probably played by new people and people that are not necessarily interested in these, you know, what these top end players doing so much. Let me just have my own journey, and in that case that guy is going to be playing from level 1, you know, or whenever they manage to like get this integration that is not necessarily well optimized, that is not necessarily, you know, supported properly, because they don't necessarily know what they're doing. You know, I'm trying to like paint a picture for you to understand. Even that guy now is nerfed incredible amounts, and I think this is like the worst approach that you can have. So this is very surprising to me, simply because, you know, on one hand, I'm seeing like how they approach the pets, and I'm like, okay, so we want the leveling experience of the pets to be better than it is, and we want the difference between like the fully completed pet guy and, you know, a little bit, you know, empty or like naked character that just managed to get to level 100 as a pet guy. You know, that difference to be much, you know, smaller gap. But how come you can increase the gap now here? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Or how come you can nerf both of the ends over here? It just doesn't make sense to me. This approach is definitely the wrong one to go with on this guy. So this being said, was this integration, you know, too much crit damage? Yeah, perhaps, definitely. But the approach itself is nerfing both of the sides. That I dislike a little bit. That is where I'm going to be leaving it. The supercharge on the Arcanist, now the crit scale up to 40%, supercharge is somewhere around here. Up to 40% at 22, so it's a 4% difference at the end. This is 35% difference, this is 4% difference. Alright. Shaman with the Conjure Primal Spirit increased the cooldown to 45 seconds. That sounds pretty drastic to me as well. Let's look at the cooldown right here. The cooldown is 40 seconds and it lives for about like 20 seconds. Now the cooldown is going to be 45 seconds, guys. Devouring Swarm increased the projectile speed by 1k. I don't know what that means. Repeating, of course. I don't really know what that means. I'm sorry. So it will be traveling faster, obviously, but like what this number stands for, I'm not really sure. Ground Slam increased the pet attack damage scaling with rank, which is good. It's a buff to the Briar Thorn. The Ground Slam is this node right over here. It's the one that also generates the threat. Now it's going to be dealing even more damage. The Storm Totem reduced the attack rate by 10%. So they nerfed the Storm Totem. Upheaval increased the bleed damage scaling with rank. I wish you were actually giving us some numbers with it. Upheaval, you know, for the years that I have played Grim Dawn, this has always and always and always have been very underwhelming, and every single patch note that I have read buffed it. And now it is another vague buff right here. It says increase the bleed damage scaling. Let's go to the Inquisitor. Horn of Gandar reduced the cooldown to 4.5 seconds now. Let's look at what's the cooldown on Inquisitor Horn of Gandar right now. 5 seconds. So 0.5 seconds less of a cooldown on Horn of Gandar now. The Ignition increased burn damage scaling with rank. Ignition is going to be Rune of Kalastar. Fair enough. Burn damage scaling with rank. Kalastar has been buffed, especially for the burn. Infernal Purge increased the electrocute damage scaling with rank. Infernal Purge, okay. Flames of Ignifar is actually something that I've never played, you guys. Never. And it says electrocute damage scaling. Increase the lightning damage scaling with the rank as well on the Intensify. Okay, so the lightning and the electrocute side of things when it comes to Flames of Ignifar is definitely stronger now. We are not getting any numbers at all. Increases our seal, increases damage scaling with rank. So this is kind of like a weird thing. I think it's actually talking about the rebuke damage instead of like the all damage that you receive from the arcane empowerment, if I have to guess. So this rebuke damage is kind of whatever, I want to say. I think that is what it is talking about, and this is sort of irrelevant to me for the most part. You know, if it was the one that was like improving your character when it comes to like all damage, perhaps like it was going to be putting a little bit more value to arcane empowerment, then I can maybe consider taking it now. But it's always a one trick Andy for me, basically. Yeah, just 1 point Andy, I should say. Steel Resolve increased damage against Chthonians and Eldritch, scaling at ultimate ranks to 24% at the end. 24% in the ultimate ranks. I want to see what it is right now. Okay, so 6% more multiplicative damage versus Eldritch as an Inquisitor is not too bad, but like who goes, you know, the ultimate rank of Steel Reserve? Well, it still is, you know, value gained, I suppose, if you think about it. The Vigor increased health scaling with rank to 1000 by 10. This is important because this is always 10 for me. So we have gained 200 more HP, guys. This is some sort of like a 20%-ish, tiny little bit higher than that buff when it comes to the HP of the Vigor. 2.8k by the maximum, the ultimate rank. 500 more HP on the ultimate. By the way, like I didn't know, up until this point, I did not know the ultimate ranks of Vigor was actually scaling better than the early levels. This is very interesting. So if you pay attention over here, you gain about like 105, and then the next click is going to be 115 every single time. Very interesting. This is cool. So I can definitely, like, you know, consider taking Vigor a little bit more points into it for sure. So the Necromancer part, guys, take this in a way that, like, I'm gonna say it like this. I don't really play Necromancer all that much, so I'll try to like give less input, but let's talk about like what they have changed. Blood Boil increased the damage with scaling. I don't even know where the Blood Boil is. Let's see. Oh, there it is. This is a good spell actually, the Siphon Souls. I usually take this when I play it. I usually take it for like the offensive ability to dump. It is incredible for it, 100%, especially for melee characters. Now it's also increased damage. The Seer Souls, reduced percentage damage modified penalty to 10%. Wait a second. Okay, so it's saying that it says like a very interesting line here. It says removed percentage attack damage converted to health penalty. And it's saying that it was not working anyway. So minus 10% attack damage converted to health. It was not, this modifier was not functioning. But as the skill was balanced around that, we are going to simply remove it. Is this like some sort of like a frustration note here? I'm not really sure. It's weird. It's interesting. But as you can see, all around, you know, the total damage modified is minus 10% as well now. So all around, like taking Seer Souls is pretty much, you know, supporting the ether side of things a little bit better. And yeah, the Siphon Souls is a little bit stronger on the ether Necromancer now. The Bone Harvest increased the percentage weapon damage scaling with rank 270%. And also the Harvester of Death removed the percentage damage because it's been added to the base. So even though this looks like a buff to Bone Harvest, guys, it kind of is, yeah. But it was already there if you were two-handing it. That's what I was gonna say. So now it is available to like one-handers as well, pretty much, for the Bone Harvest. This 30% weapon damage over here is basically added to the base ability. So you don't necessarily need to be a two-hander player at all to be able to get that maximum Bone Harvest. The Drain Essence increased ether damage scaling, so again, ether side of things is being buffed. The Hungering Reach increased crit damage scaling with rank to 55 by 12. What is Hungering Reach? Right there somewhere, isn't it? There it is, okay. So at 12 it says 55%. And 75 by the ultimate rank. What? Okay. 75% crit damage on the Hungering Reach. Increase additional target scaling with rank to 4 by 12 and 6 to ultimate. So now it has one extra target on the normal and in the ultimate. I've never played Drain Essence, but I'm gonna say, after these changes, I might actually look into it, because this is like a massive buff to the ether side of things when it comes to Necromancer. So perhaps it's going to be some sort of like an ether Drain Essence guy, or perhaps going to be like a Vitality guy, but I promise you I'll 100% look into this. This is looking very, very sizable buff when it comes to it. Decomposition increased the percentage vitality to decay damage scaling to 120 on rank 12. Okay. Did it say vitality decay, guys? Yes. So we're gaining about like 30%, close to 30% vitality decay scaling. 220 by the maximum. That sounds insane as well. 220 is 46% extra to vitality decay. That's really sizable again. Raised skeletons are going to be getting pet attack damage on skeleton special attacks and increase the damage of the skeleton revenant's undeath aura. I didn't even know about this aura, by the way. That's kind of cool. I kind of wish that it wasn't so vague, so that I would have understood what sort of like a deal it is. Perhaps we're gonna need to like, you know, meddle around when it comes to the skeleton revenant, the undeath aura. We'll see. The summoned Blight Fiend, just like the Briar Thorn, is being buffed when it comes to the Blight Burst, so the AoE damage is like higher, and also the increased pet attack damage on the base Vomit skill as well. This is very important. Uh-oh. Excuse me. Blight Burst increased... Okay, we read that. So Rotting Fumes increased poison damage scaling with rank. As you can see though, like these big pets, like all the pets from the Necromancer has been buffed, right? The same thing can be said for like Shaman as well, except like a cooldown reduction on the Primal. The same thing can be said for the Occultist as well, except the big loser of the Familiar. I'm really wondering what, you know, the pets players are going to be saying, especially on my stream. So I'm going to be ending it right here. This is some sort of like a sad ending to this video alone, because I do believe that for the Grim Dawn base content, for the several years that I have made content with to this game, this is probably going to be the last update that I'm going to be covering. Thank you very much for watching, YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed the I was gonna say stream. I have been streaming too much lately. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope that like it was useful. Let me know what you think about this latest update. Let me know what is the highlight for you, or what they are trying to do with this, because I'm really curious about what you think about it. In the description below you can find lots of links when it comes to like the patch notes. You know, I'll be sharing perhaps my dervish, my builds perhaps. And there'll be Farthest Frontier that I've showed from Crate as well, their new game that's going to be coming the next, before Grim Dawn 2 hopefully. And Grim Dawn 2 will be after that hopefully, let's put it that way. Please remember to leave a like, and I make you know, consistent RPG content in my channel. If you enjoyed my style and if you enjoyed this video, you know, feel free to subscribe. Would like you to. Peace out, YouTube. Take care. Let's catch you next time.